listings. So my first question for you guys is just first, what are the top 3 challenges? Let's actually go 2 challenges that you're facing in your business right now. Riley, let's let you start.
Cool. So I wrote down attrition rate of clients. And what I mean by that is like the amount of clients it actually takes to, or leads it takes to generate to get a serious client that follows through has greatly increased. And so like if I had every single client that either signed a BBA or met with me to list their home follow through this year, I'd be 15 to 20 deals ahead of where I'm at right now. And so I think right now for me, it's just a mixture of consistency. So getting more clients, multiplication. So making my, holding every dollar accountable, making sure my money is making me money within my business and also through investing. And then getting more consistent and serious clients. So.
Colby, what are the biggest challenges you're facing right now in your business?
Okay, Riley, I'm going to hire Riley when I decide to sell because he's the one that writes stuff down. I got the list of like what we're supposed to be talking about. And I was just like, I'll just wing it. So I think my biggest thing is just getting people call and say, hey, look, we're thinking about selling our house. You sit down with them and sometimes it just doesn't make sense for them right now. And just being honest with their situation. And like, if you're moving to try to like save money or like really, it's probably not the best decision to make a move right now. Right. So
that's your biggest challenge right now. How about you, Amber?
I think it's keeping my clients realistic expectations after having this beginning of this year, the way it was, and now they're listing and they're thinking, oh, we're going to sell in a minute. Just keeping that realism and keeping them like up to date with data.
Awesome. That actually leads me into another question that I had. What do you do as far as your mindset? What are you doing right now to keep your mindset well? And then what are you doing to prepare to talk to your sellers as well as you're going into that?
So I guess I have the mic.
Yeah,
so personally, I go in with the mindset, like they called me there for a reason and they need my help. So however I can help them, whether that means sometimes that's not the right time for them, but however I can help them over time, it will come back. I feel like over time, it always comes back. So personally, that's just the way I go into it.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Good.
Besides bumping gangster rap on the way to their house, research and
100% support that. That's a real piece.
50 cents, my favorite. So research and analyze to build my confidence on knowledge about the property and the specific wants and needs of the seller, as well as general knowledge on the area. I think the more that I can arm myself with data, the more confident I feel in talking and presenting with them, because I'm not going to be stumped at any point. And I'm also going to take charge and control the conversation versus letting them dictate how it's going to go. I'm going to set the proper expectation on how this is going to go. So
your confidence you gain through data.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Riley stole mine, but really it's like really just researching everything, making sure that you convince that if you got to convince yourself before you can convince them. Right. So I would say that's basically what I do. Just a lot of research to make sure I'm confident in the price and the marketing and everything that we're going to do for them.
Well, hold on to the mic. where are your lead sources right now?
SOI. I don't know.
And what are you doing with your SOI? What does that look like? Are you just calling? Are you just texting? Are you doing anything else?
A lot of just like text messages, just checking in with people, like circling back to people that were struggling when they couldn't buy maybe 6 months ago. Stuff like that.
Awesome. How about you, Riley? Where are your lead sources right now?
SOI, like generally speaking, just my database, referral, whether that comes from my database or not, and then outbound prospecting. I actually made FSBO calls for the first time last month. I set some appointments. I plan on hammering those pretty hard. But at this point, I'm pretty open to any type of activity that's going to get me a seller lead, because I know that's where my best time is put.
Awesome. So you really are focused your mindset around seller leads.
Yeah.
Cool.
For me, it's definitely past clients and neighbors. I've lived in the same general neighborhood for 20 something years. And so people know me and they see my face and I have a real estate question. I love that. But also one of mine is CRS designation. It's a class you can take national NAR designation. I get a lot of realtor to realtor referrals from that. So
what does it stand for?
Certified Residential Specialist. And like when I'm looking for a realtor to refer to, I look in that database because I know that they are trained. So I get a lot of those.
That's awesome. Is there anything specifically that you guys do that focus on listing lead generation over just lead generating in general?
I'm calling expireds right now, but I'm calling expireds. I mean, when people call and say, hey, look, they want to buy something, there's a lot more vetting process in that than like, oh, I'm being very selective in the buyers that I'm working with because it's going to turn into a huge headache. So if a seller comes along, I will put a little bit more effort. If they say, hey, we're even just thinking about it, I'm like, let's set up an appointment. Like, I don't even care if you're even serious about it. So
one thing that our team has shifted to probably in the last year is really focusing on unsolicited market reports, unsolicited CMAs, to where we're doing at least 5 of those a week for current SOI. I think it's one of the best things you can do to stay in touch with your SOI and be the person of value, that you're just providing information all the time for them. So if there was something that you guys could do, like I would recommend, it's free. Right now, you could even go through your database and put together hot sheets. Well, what are they called? Listing alerts. Put together listing alerts for anybody in that area or that neighborhood. So as they come in, you can be that resource. And as you start to be the one providing value and data, that's a very positive thing, and it costs you nothing. But it really will generate the unsolicited CMAs for us. I can almost go back and look at every single listing that we end up with. And at some point, we've given them an unsolicited market report that was like, hey, I was driving through Eagle Mountain and thought of you. I can't believe what housing is going, what housing is doing. So being purposeful, just like you make contacts and you say maybe have a goal for 20 contacts a week or no, I guess not a week, 20 for us. I do 5 a day. So 25 a week or whatever that looks like. Our goal is 5 CMAs. It's just like check, 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 just like you make contacts, check, 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 check. So that's something that we do that makes it that we focus on. Is there anything different that you guys do that might help give some ideas to people in the brokerage?
I think the market's interesting right now because it's very easy, I feel like, to create a sense of urgency for sellers that are truly motivated, because there isn't a 2-day window of houses being on the market. Like I think it's easier to build value in yourself right now than it ever has been. And it's also easier to create urgency. Obviously, if there's, like he said, they're selling to save money, like that doesn't make sense. But for those who have to move out of state or want to maximize potential profit before the market does shift, I think it's easy to establish yourself as that point of reference and like build credibility, because if you show up a little bit better than the next guy with a proven plan, then you're already going to be miles ahead of most people because you're not relying on the market to get it done.
Thank you. How do you ask for a signed listing agreement? How do you close to get to that point?
Well, something I heard, and I started using this and it actually worked, but I still do this to a point, but I would always do a net sheet. So I don't actually negotiate my commission. I negotiate the net. And so I present them a net sheet and I'd say, how does this look? And I just shut up and they'd be like, good or bad. They say, yes. I'm like, great, let's move forward. If not, then obviously I would then work through that with them to see, well, what don't you like about it? Move from there. A couple of things that I wrote down though. So something I heard recently that I really loved is, rather than ask somebody like, are you okay to move forward? Right. I would just say, would you be opposed to moving forward with this? Because most people psychologically, they want the right to say no. They want to retain their free agency to be like, I'm making the decision, right? They don't want to feel pressured. So if you use reverse psychology and you say, would you be opposed? No, I wouldn't, but they're also saying yes, right? Mm-hmm. That's just a simple little golden nugget I had recently. And then another thing too, any concerns you have or anything I missed that's important to you. So if they start to backpedal, then it's easier to just use questions to arrive towards the objection. And then it's easier to handle it on the moment. Do I take every listing I go, or every appointment I go on? Do I take the listing? No, but that helps me definitely have a higher conversion rate.
Cool.
Remind me of the question.
How do you close? How do you move forward with them? How do you get your contract signed or have them commit to working with you?
This one's so I am awful about my listing and buyer presentations. Like they'll last like 2 hours. It's like, you'll spend 2 to 3 hours at somebody's house. And usually I'm like, well, let's get this started. It's like 3 hours in, they're wanting me to get out of the house probably. Yeah, exactly. I don't know.
Just sign and get out.
I mean, honestly, that's probably not too far from the truth. It's just, I mean, we cover a lot of information in listing and buyer appointments. And then when they're done, they're just like, well, I don't know why we wouldn't at this point. So yeah, when you spend all this time, why
And
would
you've
we
answered
waste
all the
that time that we just
questions,
spent with you? I honestly don't know. I just ask them and then they just sign it. I don't have a trick or anything.
This is what makes you great up here. This gets people like, oh, good. It don't overcomplicate it.
Right.
Just ask.
Love it. Yeah. Usually my clients are referred to, because I've been doing this for so long, my clients are referred to me by someone they know. So a lot of the hard work is already done. So I just ask them, when are they going to be ready for photos? And let's start act like we're moving forward, because we are.
It's exactly what we do. I flip over to the back of my exclusive right to sell, and we've talked about how to like prep their house and get it ready. And I'm like, great. So do you think we could do this weekend or next weekend? And I just start writing down photos will be this day. We'll do go live this day, open house this day, sign will get installed this day. Does that sound great? Perfect. And we just move them forward. But we work off of referral quite a bit too. So by the time you get there, we're already doing business together. Is there anything special you guys do for your experience for the seller? Like to create a wow experience during the process?
So I once took over a listing that it had been listed a year. It was land. It had been listed a year with an agent expired. And I had just been to Lee Stern's class, and she said to ask the question, what's one thing I could do to make it a great experience for you in selling this property? And as I asked that question, the answer shocked me, because it was like, can you just make sure the sign stays up? And I was like, yeah, I can even put 2 signs on the property. But it got my brain thinking like, okay. And I asked them some more questions like, why did you guys buy this property? And what did you guys envision when you bought this property? Well, we envisioned watching the sunrise over the lake every morning as we woke up. And so I actually hired the photographer, sorry, Cody, to go out and do sunrise shots of the view. And that was what we did. And they were just like blown away that it cost me so little in the grand scheme of things, but it was something that blew them away.
You know what I really love though, is that sometimes we might go out of our way and do all this stuff and hire these people and make this happen and deliver the cookies and do all that. And it may not even matter to them. So I'm like, I think that's the nugget that you get, is just ask. Riley?
I'm a little more serious. I realize as I sit up here and answer my own questions, but set proper expectations. Disappointments are often equivalent to expectations, right? And so I think that setting a proper pace and kind of like you say, when are things going to happen ahead of time, it helps them just have a better experience. And then I think educating and breaking down things in a simple, understandable form will lead to trust and credibility. So they're relying on us to basically be their filter. And so I think that making it very, for lack of a better word, dumbed down or digestible for your client is what's going to ultimately lead them to think of you as a resource. Because like if you put yourself in the position of when they have questions, they come to you or they know they can trust your answer, then it's a no-brainer. They're going to use you or have a good experience in this case. And then proven process and marketing plans. So I think that communicating effectively what you're actually doing behind the scenes is super important, because I think most people think real estate agents are, flashy. They put a sign in the yard, they drive around their nice car kind of thing. And so I think establishing yourself as someone that actually puts in sweat equity to work with them is super important. So
That's awesome.
So my answer kind of blends into, I think, what your next question. What's your next question?
I don't know. I was thinking we're close on time and that they're all ready to go. But
All right, what was your next question?
I really am going out of order.
Oh.
How do you handle objections?
No, so I'm thinking about the one. So one of the questions that you asked, like, how do you what do you bring, or what do you prepare? How do you
How do you
prepare?
prepare for it?
So
I totally went to like mindset for you guys. I was like,
sorry. So I think that's honestly, that's probably the biggest key to like my success in listing is just being like super prepared. So like some people might think this is super ridiculous. I literally print off a checklist of the things that I'm going to talk to them about, and I check it off in front of them. So like the very first thing, like, I'm going to walk through the house. Do you want to show me, or are we short on time? Like, and I literally check that off. It sounds crazy, but I do that for both buyer and listing appointments.
I would love your checklist. I think it sounds awesome.
And one of the things that's on there is, what's the one thing that will make you a raving fan? Like, what is the one thing that you want to see out of a real estate agent that you didn't get with your previous agent, or you just want to see happen? And then I write that down and I make sure that that happens. And then there's the promise script in there from Ben Kinney is in there. So I always make sure to say, okay, so out of the three things, I'm going to make 3 promises. I'll promise you that this house, sells and things go smoothly. And then we handle everything that's involved in that. And then in return, you're going to refer somebody to me. Right. So I go through this whole checklist. I have all of our a pre-listing packet that I email them in advance. I just set this expectation that we're there to help them make it through the process. Right. And then I just make sure that everything that we wrote down during that listing appointment gets done.
I actually think that is super valuable. And Riley had said something about how being able to make things seem easy for them will make them keep coming back to you. I was with Erica on one of her listings this week, and it was really fun because her clients were like, I was filling out that paperwork and I just really wanted to have my pocket Erica with me. That's literally, they were just she's their answer to every question that they have. They feel so comfortable being able to talk to her. And I think those are the pieces that were coming from that. I think we just maybe only have 2 minutes, unless there's anything else you guys want to add that you were dying, that you prepared, that you feel is really important. Riley's thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, one of the questions is, why are seller leads essential in your business? So I think to just take this home, it's the highest and best use of your time, most dollar productive type of client, and highest opportunity for additional business, right? Because with a seller, you have an opportunity to create at least 1 or 2 more deals. And they're also the type of person that they have money because they have a house to sell. 9 times out of 10, they'll have some additional form of money than a regular client would. And you can also work the opportunity for marketing. So for an example, when I list a house, I'll do geo farming, right? And so I'll pick 200 people in the area and I'll market to them specifically when the house gets listed, when it goes under contract, when it sells. So if I choose 200 people, that's 600 touches potentially off of one listing. Plus we do an open house, plus I ask the seller for referrals, plus they might buy something else. It's you're going to fall into business even if you did it terribly, So that's my thoughts.
I love it. 100%. You said it so good. Is there any questions you guys have before we finish up? Oh, you guys were so fast. Very effective.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk about what we do to prepare to meet with the seller, what materials we bring, as well as everything else, but I'll have someone else go first because I don't want to keep talking.
Well, going back to that last question, actually, why are listings important? Because I was in a new neighborhood when I moved into Saratoga, and all our neighbors were new, everyone talked to me about real estate, but that's kind of how I made a name for myself in the neighborhood. Was people would see my signs. And as they would see my signs over and over and over again in the same neighborhood, people just people I barely know. I once had a neighbor tell me, someone I didn't even know that was their neighbor, that said, gosh, if we ever sell our house, we're going to use her. And I'd never even met these people. So that's huge, huge.
So do you want me to go off the question for preparation? How do we prepare? So obviously mindset, we already mentioned earlier. So for me, that's getting prepared with my, my analytical brain, making sure that I'm feeling confident, but then also it's getting myself into a better state of mind before I show up there. I joked about gangster rap. It could be affirmations. It could be, I don't know, pounding your chest and jumping up and down like a madman, whatever gets you pumped, right?
Do you have an affirmation that you use?
I have affirmations I read throughout the day, but I don't necessarily have something specific before a listing. Yeah, I'm a money magnet. I don't know. But preparation to build confidence, like I say, and then just making sure, like Colby said, you're over prepared. It's better to show up with stuff you may not think you'll need, because chances are the times you do that or the times you don't do that or the times you will need it. An example would be recently I was you know what, I'm going to stop bringing a paper listing packet. I'm just going to DocuSign it to them after the fact. And then I've had 2 instances where it took the seller either multiple days to sign it, which then the whole time I'm sweating going, are they actually going to work with me? And I had one choose to go with somebody else in that process because they would discount the commission. But because I didn't get it signed on the spot, I lost that deal. So for me, it's making sure you have everything and more. It doesn't matter if they're old or young, bring a paper copy. If they prefer DocuSign, you can always send it to them later. It costs you 15 cents to print it. It's not the end of the world, So that's my thoughts. Good.
How do you set their expectation?
So I stole from Becca Summers her slides on, and we put it into the PC team too. She had great infographics that she sourced from KW Material on what happens if your house doesn't get offers within the first 3 to 5 days, and how to tell if your house is overpriced and what pricing it compared to condition and comps and so on and so forth means. So I actually just have that in my listing presentation. I set that expectation up front and I let them know, hey, if in 10 to 14 days we don't have any offers, and like, or very little showings, like we're just like getting stressed, chances are we're probably 3 to 5% over the market. And so at that point, that's when we're going to have a conversation about a price reduction. I planted that seed early. So I just had one in St. George or Washington that today we were going to drop the price 20K, but this weekend we got an offer for just under asking price. Well, obviously they didn't know that, but we already had that in plan, prior to us getting this other offer. And that was just icing on the cake because then his expectation was exceeded.
Right?
That makes
Because
sense?
his expectation was he was about to drop the price by 20 grand. So even if you got an offer 10 grand lower, all of a sudden it made more
It's an extra
sense.
$19,000 in his pocket.
I think Becca's, I'm sure it's recorded, her class probably is one of the most important ones that we've gone through recently that talked about setting expectations and has absolutely made an impact on the way I'm talking to sellers up front. So it's not after. We're on the market for 7 days and now we're like, oh no, it's okay. You've only had 3 shows.
Where do you think you're going, Peter?
He's already been through this class. He taught it last week. No. So what do you do to prepare? And then set the expectation. That was the other question. I think that's actually a great question.
So one of the biggest things that I'm using right now, if you're not bringing graphs to show like where that line is headed, you are making a mistake when you're setting a listing appointment. Like graphs are so amazing. Like one of the things, especially with the way that the trends are going, it's pretty easy to sit down with them and like, look at the price, like see how that's taking a nosedive, see how many listings are actively on the market. Does anybody else feel like it's a race to the bottom right now? I feel like every time I sit down with the listing appointment, I'm like, you could have sold this house for like $45,000 more, like a couple months ago.
I've seen the real race to the bottom. This is
No, totally fair. No. I know exactly what you're talking about. It just feels very different right now. Obviously
See, and
it's
for me, I really we talk a lot about I am so excited. It actually does feel really healthy. It feels really healthy. And
so here's a question now.
Okay.
Did you have anybody buy 3 to 4 months ago?
Yes.
Have you done send them a market analysis right now? Don't do it. Now it's funny though, because I have a conversation with all our listings and buyers right now.
I would. And you know what else I talked to them about? Oh my gosh, didn't you guys freaking kill it? Look at what your monthly payment looks like. You guys
So
soared.
that's
You are
the
blessed.
argument is obviously your interest
I
rates are
would
really good,
absolutely have
right?
that conversation with that buyer and I'd be like, good on you. You freaking made it.
Yeah.
You made it. I'm so happy for you. Isn't it awesome? You got a great place that you get to call
So
home and you've got that awesome monthly payment. Because the other actually, one doesn't directly.
I struck a
relate to the
nerve.
other. You did. I feel really passionate about it because I am so sick of everybody humdrumming about it.
So
We got buyers that are going under contract. We got ones that are 5,000 below list price. They have $8,000 in closing costs. They're FHA buyers. I couldn't do that 6 months ago. Is it freaking fabulous? It's so cool. I'm so excited about it.
I don't even know where to go from that.
Gosh.
I agree with you, Colby, and I agree with you. I think 5 years from now,
So where I was trying to go with that,
And I
Was
just am probably like, yes, we're gonna
totally
do it.
fair. What I was
Yeah.
trying to say right now is a lot of the times when I sit down with a listing and they're going to buy, a lot of the times they're selling and they're making a move up or they're trying to get a bigger house or something like that.
Mhm.
And you're explaining to them that they're selling for probably less than they could have, 2 or 3 months ago. And then they're like, well, are we buying at the wrong time? Are we going to end up? And the truth is by December, they could actually have lost some of the equity that they bought into, right? But telling them that by this time next year, they will have positive appreciation is where I go with that. Because if
Are
they
you gonna
buy right
just be
now and
flat?
they
Yeah.
look at the values and see, hey, I could have bought that house for X amount of dollars, but they're not usually factoring in how much interest rates could fluctuate between now and December. I would not be surprised if they're 10%.
I have no idea. Totally do not have a crystal ball on what it looks like.
Exactly. But we're probably days away from them announcing that we're in a recession.
And it's so crazy because we have more under contract today than I did 6 months ago,
True. And I'm busier than I'm busier than I have been
right?
like 6 months ago too.
And it is finding the people who are motivated, because you're right. If you, there's several people I meet with, I'm like, dude, I don't think you should sell your house. You shouldn't. I don't think it's the right thing. Unless tell me why you want to move, because the value of your house is only 25% of this equation. If you don't give me where you're going and why you're going there, I'm missing 75% of the equation to know why we're doing it. If we don't have that, I can't help you make that decision.
So I didn't mean to derail everything either. So the
love
other
it.
thing
I would
too
love to
is like
sit
be
and,
super
talk
selective with
about
your
it.
freaking clients, because there's going to be a lot of really horrible clients out there that are going to be impossible to sell in this market. Like they're not going to be realistic about their price. They're going to drag you through I had a listing appointment in Brigham City and I was like, I wish I wouldn't have gone. I literally wish I would have walked out as soon as I looked in the house. I'd be like, nope, I can't do this.
It is real, because the harder ones aren't going to sell. The ones that don't take care of it themselves, where all of a sudden you're the one trying to figure out how to box up their crap, maybe they're not the ones that you invest all of your hard-earned dollars in getting them sold. Because 6 months ago, I could have sold that house, but now I'm going to pay for the nice photographer. I'm going to pay for the cleaner. I'm going to pay for all this, and you're not going to drop your price to be realistic. And it is hard.
If
right.
you're more excited to sell their house than they are, then do not take that listing.
And you'll feel it right now. I think that is very, very real. I think knowing what it looks like, it's so fun. I miss hanging out with you.
Oh, sorry.
You bring out the spicy in it. Do we need any other questions, or how are we doing on time?
Just want to chime in real quick. I think it's good to set expectations that they're going to obviously buy in the market they sell in. And so on one side, they're winning, on one side, they may be losing, but it's really a wash. And truly, like, it's never a bad time depending on how you look at it. I had one other thing to say. Oh yeah, real estate's also a long-term game. So I'd never tell my clients that are buying or selling right now, like, or I guess buying more specifically, that, hey, in 6 months, you're going to absolutely crush it. Like, I'm definitely prepping their expectations that, like, maybe next year it's not going to look so pretty, but you're also locking in the lowest interest rate you're ever going to get for the next probably 6 to 24 months. But 5 years down the road, I promise you're not going to regret picking up this property.
Well, and I don't think the market's going to fall out, but you are going to find motivated sellers. So you've got the market here. And if you are prepared and you are pre-qualified and you are ready to go, you're going to find the seller that needs to move to Texas, or who needs to downsize right now, or who needs to do this, and they will drop their price, and you need to be ready to go in and get a good deal. It's not going to be across the board, but I think there is good deals to be had, and we need to be ready to help our buyers go get them.
Sorry. Another thing that I would recommend is go check out the Dave Ramsey. Like, Dave Ramsey did this thing like maybe 2 weeks ago, where he did like an hour long, like kind of like recap on what he thinks the market's going to do. I know there's lots of information about foreclosures because the moratorium's over. So eventually we're going to start seeing more foreclosures, just weird stuff like that. And it was really informative. So I highly recommend that you just like absorb as much information as you possibly can so that you're prepared.
Data, that was the thing that I took from this, is the confidence that you have to get your listings, and your mindset comes from being prepared and data. Setting expectations, being able to talk about what it might look like and being ready. I like it. You guys are like freaking rock stars. I'm so glad you let me interview you today and share some information. Thank you. Appreciate it, Shoni. And let Shoni take over from here.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Super valuable, especially in this time. Realize that listings, what have we not had access to? If you think about the last couple of years, with how quickly listings have been selling, you don't have the opportunity to effectively market it and attract additional pieces of business. And so that's what this time really means, is it provides the ultimate leverage for you. And so use it to your advantage, take more listings. That should be the focus of your business. It also provides more time when it comes to freedom and flexibility of lifestyle. So go after that. We do apologize. Our lunch sponsor was not able to make it today. And we found that out last minute. So there's no lunch today, but there will be on Thursday. Does anybody know what Thursday is? Shift. Be there at Shift. We have Dan Kennedy who will be presenting, and it's on lead generation. And so during this time, and I always use this analogy, most agents come into the business, and if I had sawed off the legs of three of these legs on this chair, How confident would you feel sitting in this chair right now? Not very confident, right? The stability comes from it having 4 legs, and most agents in their business have 1, maybe 2 forms of lead generation that they've really dialed in on. And really, you want to have 3 to 4 solid sources to have the most stability. And so you want to be at that class because he's going to provide some valuable information and insight to that as well. So thank you all for coming. We'll see you on Thursday, 11 a.m.